Welcome to another episode of Run Against the Wind. This is Sal Albanese, and I have a great guest today. Someone who I think is a neighborhood hero. There are a number of heroes in New York City, and most of them are not politicians. They're just people who do great things in their neighborhood. And my guest today is Richard Green, who is the CEO and founder of the Crown Heights Youth Collective. And I had the pleasure of working with Richard when I was a city council member on youth issues, and I was really impressed with the work he was doing and is doing in the Crown Heights community with young people. And I'd like for people who are watching this to know who Richard is if they haven't heard of him. A lot of people have heard of Richard around the city, but they don't know his background, where he was born. And I like Richard. Welcome, and I hope I hope we can. We have enough. I could talk to you for hours and hours. I hope we can condense this and make it as helpful to the audience as possible. Richard, where were you born, and how did you wind up in Crown Heights?
Sal, thank you for this honorable moment to spend with you and your broadcast. I was born in a little country called Honduras, Central America. Some all know it as the Banana Republic. Um, I was born there and I stayed there until I was 9 years old. And there, my mother migrated to the United States, lived in San Antonio, Texas. That's why the first place I moved to when I came here. And then from San Antonio, Texas, she came to New York and made the ways for us to be brought up here. Myself, my brother, and sister. Um, we came to live in Brooklyn, and ironically, we came to live in Crown Heights. Didn't really know we came to live on Kingston Avenue, which is right across the street from the Lubavitcher's headquarters on Eastern Parkway in Kingston. And there I lived, and those days in Brooklyn, you moved around. Your parents usually moved around every year. You moved to a new place. And eventually I ended up here in Flatbush. Well, Flatbush and then Crown Heights.
And then, as you were growing up, what you joined the Marine Corps?
Interesting, Sal. I went to Erasmus Hall High School. Many people have heard of Great Erasmus Hall High School.
Well, I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I
I
know
went to
it well.
Erasmus. I graduated from Erasmus in 1966. Um, And those days, the Vietnam War had just been building up, had started building up for a while, but the draft came back into play. And after I graduated from high school, I wanted to go to college, but at the time, my mother couldn't afford getting me into a college up here. Scholarships were limited, so I got a little small scholarship to go to Brooklyn College, on a part-time basis. And one day I came home, one evening I came home and there was my draft notice. Um, and rather than being drafted, I wanted to enlist. I had an uncle who I lived with in Texas. He was a Marine. And so I was kind of impressed with him. So I went down the next day, as a matter of fact, and enlisted in the Marine Corps. And from there, of course, training, boot camp, and school. And then I ended up orders ironically enough, I got orders to go to Vietnam, and the date I was leaving was April 3rd, 1968. And the thing I say ironically about that is the Martin Luther King, was assassinated April 4th, 1968. And as we were flying, we flew across the Pacific going to Japan. When we got to Japan, we found out Dr. King had been shot. They didn't tell us at that point that he had been killed. They just said he had been shot. And early one morning, that same night, 3 o'clock in the morning, we were woken up, put on a plane, and flown down to South Vietnam. Um, and, would spend my next 12 months, 25 days in South Vietnam.
Wow. That must have been an incredible experience, tough experience, and, yeah, I honor you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
I had a number of friends that were killed there, in
Yeah.
Vietnam, God
Yeah, I lost my very best friend there, um, Frankie Roundtree.
rea
Um, 2 weeks he was in country, and, that was it. Yep, it was a tough time. I tell you, America went through over 59,000 Americans lost their lives in Vietnam, and, not to mention how many, on their side that lost their lives. It was a very, very, um, you might say, powerful moment in history. Maybe, hopefully, that might have been its time. I look at it like this, Sal. Sometimes I try to recognize the fact that we were at an atomic point in life, I mean, in the country at that time. Had not been Vietnam, could it had moved to an atomic, scenario versus a land war? Who knows? As I said, I think about it at many times, and even when I see things happening now in the other places, whether Afghanistan or these other places, I'm hoping that we could just begin to settle without going to that next level. And I'm pray that that's what we're doing now. We're settling our differences in a more humane manner, and that Vietnam and what's going on now, you see in other parts of the world.
Oh, it's horrible. Some really
Oh, it is.
ugly
It is.
stuff. They need you as a mediator, Richard. Yeah. So, and how did you start the Crown Heights Youth Collective?
Interesting, Sal. When I came home, I got the my first choice when I got out because in Marine Corps I came home. I was a sergeant in an MP unit. Um, and as an MP sergeant, I had a number of young men, almost all were Vietnam vets that were under my guidance. And, we were at a base down in Norfolk, Virginia. That's a major Navy compound. And, while there, I started to look at things in my own life, how I was gonna go. And I had a CO. It was interesting how life has been for me. My CO name was, bless his soul, Major Areola, was from Brooklyn, and we kinda
Like an
clicked
Italian
in the
guy.
sense. Hmm?
Sounds like an Italian guy, Ario.
Yeah, sure was. Major Areola was a really, really beautiful guy, and I met Major Areola as an MP. I stood the gates, and one evening I was on the gate before I became a sergeant. I was on the gate. And this car came in and I waved it in, saluted him, asked him where he was heading. He told me he was going to Marine Barracks. I showed him how to get there. When I got back off duty and got back to the barracks, the sergeant said, "Yo, Green, you were on the main gate today." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Our new CO came through the gate." And he came in and he asked us who was a Marine standing in the gate. And it was me. 2 months later, I made sergeant. And then the president at that time, Nixon, had what he called an early out. He discharge a number of Vietnam veterans in the unit, from my unit, many from all over, but from my unit. So overnight I became what they call a sergeant of guard. I was promoted to sergeant, and then I made sergeant of guard, and worked very hard and wanted to maybe of all things I wanted to become a police officer. I wanted to join the NYPD. But at the time, NYPD had a freeze, and I was an MP, so it was almost an automatic when you got out. You automatically was considered to become a police officer. But at that time, like I said, this freeze was on in New York. And instead I went to school. I was fortunate to get a little scholarship. My brother Raymond was going to school up at Marist College, and I got a scholarship to go to Marist.
Wow.
So I did my bachelor's over at Marist College, which was really a powerful experience,
Wow.
and then I went to graduate school at the SUNY Newport,
That's
which,
that's that's amazing.
yeah,
I didn't
I was as I said, it's been like a for I think about life all the time. I was just really fortunate, I was able to do things, and, from I got out of Newport, and not long after that, came back to Brooklyn, and that's how we started. I started looking at doing some work around the community. Started out tutoring with 2 young people, and then from there, I just that was in 1976.
wow.
Um, I got out I came back to Brooklyn. I remember that was the year of the, celebration, the centennial,
Yep.
and then, from there, as I said, I started working around youth. I started working and I was fortunate. I got a really good position at Brooklyn College, um, to work as a counselor. But, like God works in mysterious ways, came time for the next appointment, I wasn't appointed to the next time. And the reason for that, I look back now, that moved me into starting my own program. I think my mother used to say, "If you could do the best for others, why not do it for yourself?" And I started my own program. I started counseling. I started getting young people directed towards school. I started showing them how to take the test of, the various exams to get into school, to get in scholarships. And that's how I started out.
So, and then, you formed, the Crown Heights Youth Collective, um, out of that out of that, uh, wishful, you want you formalize it into an organization.
Exactly.
We're working with children
Hmm.
and so, uh, what what motivated you to do that? I mean, to put it together like that into a formal. I guess you incorporated and you did the
Hmm.
legal.
Yep,
Uh,
exactly.
did you get
Exactly.
a grant from the city at all
N- Not in the beginning, but I sure got a grant. Um, if you remember, 1979 was what they called the International Year of the Child.
right,
And the city was doing some things around, working around agencies, working with young people. And I was fortunate to get a very small grant to work. I started working now out in around, Ebbets Field.
right, and
Now, Ebbets Field, the historical value of Ebbets Field. I was working in Ebbets Field, which became a major giant
yep.
complex, housing complex. And that park right there, I started working and just started gathering up those young people. Um,
Well, you
I run into them now. Some of them are grandparents.
wow,
Yeah,
And you
I worked with them.
initially were doing that on a volunteer basis, and then you started receiving some funding from the.
Yes. Hmm.
That's amazing.
After a while, the word got out of the work I was doing, and the city, under the Koch administration, did some work with us, and then the next administration was the Dinkins administration. And I think you in the council
That's
at Safe
yeah,
Streets,
that's
Safe Street, Safe City?
that's when I first met you with the vans. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Safe Street, Safe City.
yeah,
Um, we got the van. The van originally was a rental van, and I think you may not remember, but you said to me, "Well, why don't you go at the city to look at this program?" It was a rental van we
mm,
first was in. A lease van that we rode around, and the whole idea was to go to the places where I knew the young people hung out. I go to the parks and go to the street corners and, guide them in, and get them in, and I would have information in the van, pass out flyers and pieces to them. They began to take exams. Some of them got back into school,
it's amazing.
and we started just doing that work, and it caught on, and before you knew it, um, by 1979, as I said again, International Year of the Child, and right after that, I met the lady who would become my wife, and some many years later, we're still working at it, and she came She was working as a buyer at Lord and Taylor's, and imagine me trying to convince her to leave Lord and Taylor's to come and work out here in the streets.
That's amazing.
And she did, thank God.
Most
Myra Green was that person, and, out of we were able to little by little manage.
I think, well, I obviously came, with you on a ride along, and I was
Yeah.
impressed. I think at one point you had 24 vans on the street. Did it ever reach that level?
Yeah, well, the city reached they really, after Dinkins' administration, I think was the Giuliani administration came next,
Mhm.
and they kind of saw the value in going to the streets and finding the young people out on the blocks that they hung out and pass out information to them and get them off the streets. And the program grew. And the other day, Sal, it was very interesting. I had the last van in the program. And the strange thing about having the last van is the van belonged actually to Far Rockaway. And the city moved the Far Rockaway program and they gave me the last van.
Wow.
And I didn't even know my son one day he wasn't even he was in Manhattan one night. He says, "Dad, what was your van doing parked in Manhattan downtown?" I said, "Oh, I don't have the van anymore. The new administration took it back, and when they took it back, they didn't have a place to put it. They just parked it on the street, and there's where it was. And then from there, I think they sent it to the junkyard.
So, the
You know?
funding cuts basically, uh, forced you to get rid of the vans, right? The vans were isn't that what happened? You
No, it's actually
what
we wanted to keep those vans running because the vans made such a difference. I mean, you could go, but each administration have its own value on certain things. And this administration here that's in office now didn't see a value in street outreach. But street outreach was where it was at. You go out there and you catch them on the block where they're hanging out, and you bring information to them, and they see the van, they know the van right away, and they would come to you.
It's
Young people would have questions, want to go to school, want to get a job, you know, th- whatever. We would help to guide them towards it. And we worked very closely, quietly with the police department. We worked very, very closely with them. They would call me up and say, "Mr. Green, we have a guy down here and he says he knows you. He's one of your youth. He's down at the precinct. I'm in the 7-1 precinct. He says, if you could come down here, maybe we could work something out." And sure enough, I'd go down there and the cops would say to him, "I'm going to let Mr. Green take you home. But if we catch up with you on the street again, you're going to go to jail." And I had a good relationship working with the precincts with Brooklyn South and then with Brooklyn North.
very interesting
Yeah.
because as you know, there's always, especially in areas where you have, issues of crime, this
Hmm.
in between the police and the community at times. And you had a great rapport with the police in that area. You worked with them to help kids. Am I,
Oh, definitely.
how did you establish that rapport?
Well, you kind of like have a place where many of those officers didn't want to lock a young man up, a young woman up. They wanted to give them a chance to do something else with their lives. And my card, I have a card, and I still have the card. It's a bright yellow card, and at times the cops would say I would give. The cops would have them in their possession, and anytime they run into a young person with an issue, that's the card.
Wow.
They run into a young person with an issue, they would pull out the card and says, "I want you to go see Mr. Green. He's down on." At that time, I was down on Franklin Avenue. I think we were on Franklin Avenue when I met you,
Yes.
before they tore the building down to, build a college. Um
Medgar Evers.
Yeah, Medgar Evers, yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because, I've had, I was a school teacher for 11 years. I coached and I worked in Sunset Park where we had a lot of youth gang activity. And then I was a
Mhm.
council member. I worked with the precincts on solving issues. They had the CPOP program, which is the,
Oh, yeah, I remember CPOP.
and, I've had, like any profession, there are people that shouldn't be on the job that are bad, they're brutal, what have you. But I found that most officers really want to do a decent job. They do want to help people, and I get a little bit irritated when I hear total negativity about
Oh, yeah, I do
this
too.
department. There's a lot of great people. As I said, I had a good experience, and they solved a lot of problems without arresting people.
Mhm.
Sometimes they had to do that, but it was, I mean, and you're another example of it. You had a great rapport with the precinct, and the cops trusted you because you were not out there. You were out there to help kids, and they realized that, right? Am I correct?
Oh, no, you're 100%. You're 100%. I developed a relationship first with the precincts, then I did it with the boroughs because we were in Brooklyn South, cross Eastern Parkways, Brooklyn North, Manhattan South, the different boroughs at the time of the graduation. Just this last graduation, in July, I did the graduation.
You did
Um,
this past year.
I did, after graduation, they bring them out to the commands, and, they brought Brooklyn South. We did it out at Fort Hamilton at the base out there, and, you sort of develop a relationship with the officers when they first hit the streets, and to understand that, every time they run into a young person that they may be into something. Maybe they just need someone to just guide them along and give them some information. And that's what I do. What's what the cops do. A lot of the cops in our precinct, like I said, we maintain. I mean, I had like now we have like maybe the commands um, retired, a whole group of young officers retired, and even many of them now, I still maintain a relationship with them online. They'll
Yeah.
reach out to me online after retirement, and I do a little piece with them. And as I said again, the police officers in our precinct knew us, knew about us, knew the things we do, and they knew if there's something happening, and not only in our precinct, but it got around. If I be in Manhattan, I may run into a cop at one police plaza, and he's, "Oh yeah, I used to be in the 7-1. I remember what you was doing." And like I said again, we want to keep them on. And whoever the new people are now out there in the streets, I always say to these young people, I mean these new people who are doing this community work, develop a relationship with your precinct,
Yeah.
develop a relationship with your borough. Um,
I think I read somewhere that you addressed the new recruits at the academy on a number of occasions. Where 500 officers were about to graduate. You spoke to them. Is that accurate?
oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
I would go. I would be invited.
what would
I had a relationship, bless his soul, Commissioner Safer.
yes.
When Commissioner Safer was on, we would he would bring me out and he'd bring me to the academy on the first day. The very first day we would talk to the new officers coming in,
What would you say to them, Richard? What would you say to them? To the
well, I would tell them, we go out there in those streets, you have to understand and build relationships. The greatest thing to have is a good relationship when you're out there in the streets. Um, I mean, I'm speaking now from my experiences in Vietnam. I knew times in Vietnam where I would be in a pastoral village, and somebody in that village would I would have a relationship with, either a child or a mom and son. I would
Mm.
pass on some to them, and it'd always be that relationship. And I know they would give me a little sign, something like that, maybe don't go over there. And I tell these youths the same thing. You got to develop a relationship in your community. Somebody up in that window may be calling that 911 call for you. You're going in a door, and the other side of the picture, the door shuts on the police officer's partner's back inside, and his partner's outside. and somebody you should help and let them in, because 'cause they're going into that building probably to save somebody's life, and a lot of the young people I have guys now that young people now that are retiring who were cops from the community. I mean, they're
People that you counseled and work with, young people that became
Yep,
police officers?
yep, get them in, get them on the exams, show them how to Commissioner Kelly, when Kelly was commissioner,
Yep.
one day Kelly came and he brought me an envelope with money orders. The money order that a youth needed to take to put the application in. I think it's a 20, it was 100, I can't remember the dollar amount. There's amount that a money order that they needed to
Take the exam.
to to take the exam, and he helped me with that to take that money order and get that young person. Like I said, a lot of the young people that I run into still now they're retiring. They became police officers, and many of them came right back to work in the area. They usually don't put them in the command where they live,
Right.
but they would put them in a command not far from where they live. And Brooklyn South, they would come to work here, and I would run into them on the streets. The cars would stop, pull me, come over and we speak. And I tell folks, develop a relationship with your police department. Parents, don't wait till there's an issue. Use a community, invite them to your community meeting, invite them to your block associ- block associations. Let them understand that it's a working relationship between you and them. They're not just there to make an arrest. Because most of the police officers don't want to do that. They're really, really in their hearts don't want to lock somebody up if they don't have to. I mean, I've seen so much of that happening, where I've gotten calls and said, Mr. Green, we don't want to lock this young man up. We know he's not that person. We know he has good potential. Can you do something with him?
That's
And
ama
I said, okay.
that's great. I wish more people would listen, to what you have to say because, we live in a very polarized, environment now, and everything is, there's there's a gray area, right?
Oh yeah.
People act in a absolutist fashion, black or white, and all police are bad, all police are good. I mean, it's much more complicated than that, and it's basically, as you pointed out, building a relationship, which you have no problem with because people trust you. Let's talk about the Crown Heights riots in 1991, where a young black boy was run over in an accident by a car driven by a Hasidic gentleman, and then a lot of misinformation spread around the community, and violence exploded. And then I think a Hasidic man was stabbed and then died later on,
Yeah.
Rosenbaum, and it was an ugly time for the neighborhood and also for the city. And I know you played a role post the riots in bringing about peace in that area because the Hasidic community trusted you, the cops trusted you, and the black community trusted you. So what did you do that to help bring about some harmony there?
Well, as you mentioned before, I lived in Crown Heights since I was 10 years old, on and off. And when this accident happened in 91 August, I got a call. I'm coming home one night about 10:30. I got a call from the precinct and they said, we need you to come out here. And I got out there. There was a big group of young people from one side of the community on one side of the street. And on the other side, there were Hasidic young people. And in the middle was the police. And they were trying to keep folks apart from each other. And it started to get, and we just started working on it. Bill, um, Bill Lynch worked for the mayor.
Yeah, I remember Bill.
You remember Bill
Oh,
Lynch?
yeah.
Yeah, he called me in the morning and he said, "We need you to come." And the school I used, I told him, I said, right from the hospital that night, when after I went to the hospital, and, Yanko Rosenbaum had also passed.
That's a Joe.
Um
That's a
Hmm?
who was stabbed, right?
Yeah, he was stabbed, a Jewish young man and he was here studying, there's a study group from other parts of the world, and, from that moment on, the question was, "What should we do with this scenario?" I said, "Well, let me tell you what I would do." I went to school at PS 167, still remember. I was there in the 5th grade, and that was on the corner of Schenectady and Eastern Parkway. I said, "Why don't we use 167 as a meeting place for young people from the Jewish community and from the Black community to get together and start talking?" We haven't been talking to each other. We've been like 2 ships passing in the night. We just sort of pick each other up on the radar and keep going. And I said, "Why don't you start them talking?" And that's what we started doing. We brought them together and started talking. We started to get them understanding each other. Why do you all wear these clothes? Why do you look this way? Why do you do that? A lot of questions were the questions that many young people walk around with, didn't really have an answer to.
Mhm.
And we got the young people, and we got somebody in the Hasidic community, young man, Dr. Laz, we called him. He brought the Jewish youth, young men together, and I brought the Black youth together. And we started doing things like playing ball together. Um, my wife did some work with the women. They did a garden together. Um, they just began little simple dialogues, and it still goes on almost over 30 something years later.
It's still ongoing.
We're still ongoing, little. The other day, I was called down. The new commissioner, police, um, had a meeting with the Black community, and she invited me to come by and sit in a meeting, and I was able again to see some of the leadership there, and they're still doing the things that they do, and I work with them. I have a phone now that we have phones and emails and all the other good technology. I stay reaching out to them. If something happens in the neighborhood, I get to them and they get to me with it, and of course, um, was an old commander in the precinct. I never forget. His name was Inspector Smith, and Inspector Smith would say to me, "Richard," he says, "there's three people in this community. There's blacks, blues, and Jews." He says, and he says, "We got to keep those three forces always talk." I never forget.
It's
Inspector
a great
Smith.
line.
He says, "We got to keep those three forces talking to each other."
Black
And
music.
that's what I do if I can, we get them together, we talk, they still have a little area where in the summer they do a block, um, gathering where the precinct brings out a whole series of food and bring both communities together in one of the parks not far from the middle of the community. And, that's what we've done. 1991 was a major moment to keep you, and not only that, after 1991 Crown Heights, there was, incident happened out in California, and folks reached out to me. There was an incident, if you remember, in Washington Heights,
Yes, yes. Kiko
and
Garcia with the shooting, of, I think it was a Dominican,
yep,
gentleman.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I got a call that evening to come to Washington Heights. I didn't know much about Washington Heights. I speak a little bit of Spanish, but not enough to negotiate, but we were able to get out there, and I met some of the young men out there, people that done the work that I do, and I started just giving them examples, what I was able to do, get them together, get them in a school building, get them in a gym, get them, you know,
Yep.
get young people talking to each other.
That's so important, and you've got the personality. I always describe you. There's a couple people that I describe, as having, like, a priestly demeanor, just like saintly demeanor that people grab.
Oh, thank you.
I actually
That's honor. That's an honor.
well, it's true, Richard. That's the way I feel about you.
No, that's an honor. I look at it, as I said again, the work I've done, Maris helped me a lot with that.
Yes, yes.
The Maris brothers.
Yes, yes.
I was at Maris when there was still brothers were our professors,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's funny, I interviewed, Jack Cambria. I don't know if you remember him. He was head of the NYPD hostage negotiating team. He,
I think I remember the name.
I mean, and the reason why he was always successful in dealing with,
Oh, yes, okay.
de-escalating was he had a priestly demeanor like you do. I mean, it's just people, people would talk to him. They trusted him. And that's so important. And you've got that characteristic. I mean,
Well, thank you.
you definitely.
Thank you kindly. I try my best, as I said again, Brooklyn is special to me, and like I said again, I'm always and people are surprised when whenever they say I said to them, "I used to be a Marine." They would say, "Oh, you were a Marine?" To this
Yeah.
day, they don't some a lot of people don't believe that's what I did in the Marine Corps. I was a Marine.
Well,
They thought of the other side of being that person who would be more very aggressive, but it's just the opposite, and I felt my the Marine Corps taught me how to be able to solve any issue that you run into, there's a solution to it. That's what it taught me, and anytime I run into something, I say, "Okay, there's gotta be something." Sometimes, Sal, I get the calls when these things are happening in the neighborhood. I would get a call, and I'd be in my car on my way to the site of the incident, and I would be thinking in my mind, "How am I gonna deal with this?" "What's gonna happen? How am I gonna deal with it?" And something from the Marine Corps will come into my head, you know?
well, I mean, you obviously went through a lot and learned a lot. And well,
Oh, yeah.
you mentioned Ray Kelly. I'm sure he loved you because he was a Marine himself.
Yeah, we were in Vietnam the same time, not
Uh,
we weren't in the same unit,
yeah,
but we were in Vietnam the same time,
yeah.
and that was always you know I share a little surprise with you. He offered me a deputy commissioner job for community affairs,
Tell you,
and,
you turned it down.
Honorable turned it down. Why, Sal? Because I said to Commissioner Kelly at the time, I said, "Sir, I could better serve you out here what I do every day.
That's amazing.
I could better serve you out here." He took a ride from 1PP out here to Crown Heights to my office to sit in me, say, "Well, don't talk to me on the phone about this. I'll come out." And he came out and we sat and I said, "Sir, I could do more for you on this end." Commissioner Carrick also offered me to come and work. And both times I had to be honest with them. Not that I didn't want it to do that, but I felt that I could do a better service what I do every day,
That's that is.
and then that's why I'm telling you, I was very, very humbled by the fact that Commissioner Kelly and him and I maintained over the years, we maintained a good working relationship,
Yeah,
great.
he was heavily criticized at the end of his career over the stop and frisk issue, which I think,
Oh yeah.
in my view, they really went overboard on it. But he was, I think, deep down, he really had a good rapport with communities around the city. He was always in black churches. I don't
Mhm.
happen. I think you know trying to keep, once we get into a situation, this is my view, where we're concerned about statistics,
Yeah.
you become fanatical and you go overboard, and I think that's what happened there. But I think,
Yeah, I think that's what the stop and frisk was something that, we tried our best. I try to work with them to balance it out. I mean, I've been stopped and frisked,
yeah,
you know?
you have.
So I tried my best to show how can we balance this out? How can we make it such that it's not as um
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a tool that you need to use occasionally, but
Mhm.
when you start doing it, when you go over the top, and you start stopping and frisking everybody, creates problems. It creates problems, and it's also, there's a stop, question, and frisk. I mean, you can, people forget that one of the things you can do is ask a question as a police officer.
Yeah.
There was a vision that the cops were throwing people up against the wall, and stuff like that, which is problematic. But it was certainly over the top, and it caused a lot of unnecessary problems. Richard, in terms of youth services, are we doing enough to keep our kids engaged? I mean, are the schools I mean, I remember when I was a teacher, I used to work in the after school centers, right?
Mhm.
Afternoon and in the evening. Is that happening on a widespread level or no?
No, it's not. They just some for some reason, the city mothers and fathers have not put together a priority listing of needs. And this administration, I haven't seen that happening, where the after school programs, the night centers. Um, I have my young man Frank Johnson. He's one of my coaches. He's on Sunday mornings. That's the only day that will allow him to get the gym. But he opens the gym on Sundays every Sunday morning. You could go down to my old junior high school, 61, and he's there with the youths from the neighborhood. And you have a new group of young people coming into the neighborhood now on the new immigration. A lot of young people coming in from different parts of, West Africa, from the islands, and they have different kinds of perceptions about things in the community, and he gets them all together, and if they're balling together, playing ball together, they're learning about each other,
It's
and
fantastic. I mean, I'm a big
yeah,
believer in it.
so we do that. He's there every week, and, we do the food pantries. Today's Tuesday, today's a food pantry day where, we get, the different companies will give us things, and we give it out in the neighborhood, and,
Well, the schools are only open on he's only able to access the building on the Sunday morning. That's it?
yeah.
Not at night? Or
N There's so much rules, not rules, but different changes now. There's certain amounts of dollars that you have to pay for what they call opening fees, that if you don't have a budget and, DYCD, you familiar remember the DYCD's folks, they try their best to help with the budgets in terms of opening fees, but it just doesn't happen that way. I see where the new, young man running for for mayor, um, who I've worked with before.
Zoran Mondam?
No, Andrew Cuomo.
Oh, Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, he has a commercial where he speaks about not only hiring 5,000 new cops, but also engaging that many more young people. Um, he does is a new commercial I seen. I kind of like it because Dinkins, Mayor Dinkins said basically the same thing. In the Safe Street. If you remember Safe Street,
I
Safe
did
City.
too. I was on the council, yeah, when we
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it was
and that's what he did with Safe Street, Safe City. I mean, he would put um, so much energy and funds into us opening up these centers at night.
it's, really
It
important, really.
No doubt, no doubt. The
I
night centers are the most important part of your day
Yep,
because a lot of those young people, you also could get them to talk about school.
yep,
You talk about going back and getting your GED. You talk to them about different things. They have a case now. They're in the courts to get a kind of what I try to do is to get something going when they're in court to see if we get them community service,
right.
um, to get them other things. I mean, some of the DA offices, like this DA here in Brooklyn, he
Gonzalez?
is very helpful. If there's something we could call and say, "Listen, this young man or young woman is not who what it looks like on paper. Get something. Let us get something going for them."
Yep.
And that's what these people. I'm saying the people out there, as you probably see now, it's platinum. So that means it's been a while I've been out there. Uh,
You look fantastic.
oh, it's platinum now, Sal.
I was
And I'm telling you,
I'm s
I tell them,
your hair. You still have your hair. As you notice,
yeah, it's still here.
when I
I, I tell, I tell, I tell them, I said, listen, you people coming in to start doing programs, you got to get these programs. You got to get them off the streets. You got to get them onto the books. You got to get them into passing these whatever the exams are to get to the next level. That's what we did. We did, Sal. We got where
Richard,
the young
we need that desperately. I mean, I think it's money well spent. Opening
oh, I have no doubt about it.
schools should be open after school and into the evening, and kids should be engaged there. And as I said, I worked in those programs when I was a teacher, and they were very, very helpful. Keep kids busy. You engage them in after school tutoring programs. That's the way to really save money. Policing is important, but
Yeah.
without those services, without the ability to engage young people, especially in tough neighborhoods, it's a big mistake. It's misplaced priorities. I mean, you shouldn't. Schools should be open. You shouldn't have to pay opening fees, right?
Mm-mm.
Let DOE pay the opening fees.
Yeah.
Keep those schools open for programs like yours. It's just common sense, really.
I'm a testament to that, Sal. I went to after school program. I grew up in a household as a mother-led household. So I went to after school programs usually from 3 to 5. Went home and had dinner, and then went back to it from 6 to 8.
Yep.
You know, so I was able to do my homework as well as play ball. I played ball all the way. Ball took me through my schooling.
What, you,
I was able to play.
what position? What, were you a basketball player or a baseball
Yeah,
player?
basketball player.
Wow.
In those days, I'm what 6'3.5" or 6'4". I was a big man, you know.
Did you play at Marist? Did you play basketball at Marist?
No, I didn't get. I played at Marist, but I played on the intramural
God,
squad. Marist had began become a real big issue. Now we're Marist University,
yeah,
um,
yeah. It's a great.
and we had Rick
Cool.
Smiths and the other great NBA ball players.
Oh yeah.
But I was able to play ball. Ball was I played ball even in the Marine Corps. I played ball in the Marines. I played ball. We were in Vietnam. The CO from one base would challenge the CO from the next base, and they would put us in a truck with with guards and drive us to the next base to play that next team. Hey, ball was that was special in my life.
Yeah,
You
me
know what I'm
too. Me
saying?
too. I was a
Yeah.
baseball player. I actually had Yankee tryouts, and
Oh,
yeah,
nice. I didn't know that.
I spent.
Wow.
I can't. I grew up in a working poor. My mother was a garment worker, and we didn't have any money. And basically, I went to public school, and spent. If it wasn't for baseball, I would have
Mhm.
dropped out of school because I
Wow.
got interested in school at the time, and I had to pass 3 subjects to
To
continue
graduate.
to be on the varsity, and I did that. That's why I'm a big believer in whether it's sports, whether it's music, something that engages kids in a school that keeps them on track is so important. And you and I actually have had the same experience because all I did was play ball as a kid, and in my neighborhood, in those days, you were either a gangbanger
Yeah.
or a kind of a nerd, right? So, and everybody, it was kind of a neighborhood where you had the tough guys were like the guys that people were modeling themselves after, which was a disaster. So they
Yeah.
needed to divert their attention to other things, positive stuff, and that's what's great about it. Let me ask you one final question. I did hear.
But you came here as a young child like I
Yeah,
did.
9 years old. You
Wow, isn't that
I
something?
came from Italy, and my father was a carpenter, but he became disabled. We had no money. They
Oh,
had to start working as a garment worker. She supported us on a, very meager salary. But in those days, an apartment in Park Slope, which was a working class neighborhood in those days,
yeah,
$35 a month. I mean, for railroad rooms, right? That you could
yeah.
would have been homeless today. So yeah, we have similar experiences in that regard, and it builds character actually to be able to survive that, and what you've experienced is amazing. That's why you've got a great ability to communicate with people. In terms of shootings, they say shootings are down, but I'm hearing that more younger and younger
Yeah.
people are involved in shooting incidents as victims and as shooters. What do you attribute that to?
The access to arms out here in the streets, Al. Me and someone was another youth worker, and I was talking the other day. to try to figure out where all these guns are coming from. I know they say they bring them up from down south, they say they come up in trailer trucks, but somehow we have to figure out a way, the churches, the precinct, the schools, we have to get a way to get those guns out of the hands of these young people. I'm amazed when they talk about a 13-year-old going into a school building with a 45. It amazes me, because we just don't have a need in our community to have something like that, and we really, really need everybody. I say everyone, parents. We just can't leave it up to the police. They do a job, but usually when they do a job, it's a different kind of remedy than when we do it. When we put a remedy to work here, we put something else in their hands. Get the guns out of their hands and put something else in their hands, you know?
Guns, Richard.
Mhm.
You mentioned something that sometimes they rent guns.
Yeah. I found out I spoke to some young people where you could actually, rent a gun over the weekend. You could, someone will let you use their guns for a couple of dollars over the weekend,
Wow.
you know, and as I said again, Sal, I keep on it. I keep on it. I don't feel that in 2025 that we should be at this point, but it doesn't mean that we can't continue to work like I did in 1995. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
It's always a need in our community. People, I say it out there to parents and community leaders and the people in the clergy. There's always a need for you to get these young people under your wings. Give them some science to work with.
Other
Give them something other than just, the gun. If you could put the gun in their hands, you could put a carpenter tool in their hands. You could put something else in their hands.
Is it over beefs, Richard, that results in these shootings? Like somebody disrespects somebody else, and then it turns out to be a violent altercation.
Very trivial beasts, very trivial things, and the media has a lot to play in it because they give these young people a sense that certain things are just not allowed, certain things are not, uh I mean, when I was coming up, we had a beef, you threw
Yeah,
hands, you threw hands, and whoever you walked away with a black eye or busted lip, and that's the end of the story. But now I was watching that little 13-year-old up in the Bronx last week, was in the news. And I'm saying, what could cause this young 13-year-old to walk around with a pistol going after somebody else, and then he ends up getting killed?
it's so
The other thing I'm worried about, Sal, and I think we all as a community has to put it out, is these train surfings.
yes.
It's becoming a kind of detrimental event for these young people. And I saw the other day that two girls
Girls, yeah, were killed.
surfing,
What's that?
you know?
Oh, I mean, I guess it's just kids daring each other
Yeah,
to do this. Is that what
yeah.
it is?
A lot of it is daring. A lot of it is, someone said, "Well, listen, I've done it before. Let me see if you can do it."
How
And before you know it, you read about it in the news.
It's horrible. How
Mm.
bad is the youth gang problem? Is it as bad as it was years ago? Is it the same? Has it improved in terms of less people are joining youth gangs?
I'm seeing a lot of improvement in it. There's still the gangs there, but the gangs become more like crews, what they call the crews. And a lot of them are doing different things other than going out there hurting each other. A lot of the crews, these young people may get into the rap game, into making music, into doing things. Someone might even play sports.
Really?
Who knows? But other than just going out there and going at each other, and I'm happy for that. Whenever I hear something happen in my neighborhood in terms of them, it surprised me, because it's just not like it was before. It's getting, thank God, it's getting better. And I think parents and communities and everybody has to get together and give them something, give them an alternative,
Yeah.
the alternative rather than, going out there and picking up a gun and going at each other. Give them an alternative. You want to shoot hoops. Get out there and put teams together. The churches, find a way to get these young people involved. Other than that, our spiritual nature has been diminished. You and I remember when we grew up, we had to go to church every week,
Yeah. I went to
and that helped.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I played
That helped,
Lady of Peace Grammar School. I played baseball for Our Lady of Peace, which was on Carroll Street in those days, and, yeah, the churches did a lot,
Yeah.
and I think they should do more actually because 'cause they're
Oh, no, no doubt about it. I'd say the ministers and the church clergy should get together and get these young people involved with all the what high school did you go to?
John Jay and,
Oh, you went to J?
manual training, it was called, and it had such a bad reputation that they changed the name to John Jay. It was a tough place. I mean, my parents couldn't afford to send me to Bishop Ford, which was the Catholic high school, so I
Yeah, I remember Bishop
that
Ford.
and the nuns
I became a Sabor referee,
really?
IABO ref, and I refed a lot of the high schools, a lot of the, Catholic schools
Yeah.
game, that was one of the games. It was funny, I became a ref when I became a ref with locks, when I would wa when I would go into the gym, I say to the coach, "I'm the referee," he would look at me.
They got
Yeah. So I ref for many years. I refed,
Oh, I didn't know that.
high school, girls, boys, you know? Yeah, I was fortunate to have that experience, and, like I said, Sal, my life has been just a continuous improvement
Yes.
in things that I was able to do for myself as well as for others, I
Absolutely.
have, my brother and my sister, they had me as almost, no my dad was not on the scene, but they had me more as a dad since I was the oldest. So I had to do things that normally wouldn't have to be done, you know?
You've had an amazing life. I mean, it really
Oh, I
I mean, have you thought about writing a book about your life?
I've put some things down on paper, Sal, and I just have to now take time to really master it, my wife has been pushing me in that
You
direction
should do it. You
to do that,
definitely do it. It's hard, but you should do it
and I yeah,
'cause you
I think I will follow your advice
uh,
on that too,
people would love I mean, you've had, your experiences as an immigrant, as a US Marine, as someone who worked in the neighborhoods of the city and made life better for so many people. It's a book worth reading, let me tell you, and, I remember just walking around with you,
Yeah.
how people respected you, we went into the playgrounds and just, like, there was a tremendous amount of admiration for you. You could feel it. It's palpable when you walk around Crown Heights with you, and it's an honor to know you, and I really appreciate you making time for this. And I'm going to post it tomorrow, and it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Spotify because I think people want to hear what you have to say. I certainly do, and I really appreciate your time, Richard.
Well, I appreciate you calling on me, Sal. When you called me to do this, I was honored, and,
It's my honor.
anytime, I'm thankful that we had a chance to know each other
Yes,
and work with each other out in the streets, and now on this level that we could still work together doing these kinds of things. So I thank God and thank, you for what you have done.
I thank you,
And
Richard.
anytime you need me,
Yes.
you know,
Well, everybody needs you, Richard. Thank you so much, and have a great
appreciate that.
my best to your wife, by the way.
As well, do the same.
Thank you.
Peace and love to you.
Peace and love.